So it's interesting. So in that period when you're in Baltimore, going back to my original question, you were just being filled up with Jewish information and data.
Correct.
Like I can see a lot
Correct.
happens.
Correct.
With a lot of people that are religious from birth, but it takes what for you it took making Aliyah.
True.
And please God, there's something like that for everyone. It may not be Aliyah for this person. It might be for me. It wasn't. I mean, don't get me wrong. Aliyah took it then to another level because whatever. Because that's the reason I'm here making Aliyah. But so what pushed you to make Aliyah? Your parents were still alive. When did your mother pass away?
My mother passed away 6 months after my father. My father passed away in November of 87. My mother passed away in May 88.
Did you see that coming?
Yeah, she had cancer for several years. He was taking care of her, and he died of a massive heart attack very quickly. And when he passed away, then she just went downhill. She had no reason to continue.
It kind of makes sense that they would have gone around the same time. Obviously, I never met them, but the way they met, it's almost like it was such a. Were they very close?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
I can imagine. So after you got married, so what put Israel on the map? You had kids in America, right?
We had our two oldest were born in America, and we had two Sabras being born here.
Right.
And even the kids from America, one came here at age slightly less than 3, 2 and 10 months.
Right.
And then we had a son who was 1.
So what made you make Aliyah? What year was this?
We came in 1972, March 72.
Okay, so what's that? My math.
48 years.
Have you noticed it's terrible?
48 years.
So that's 5 years after the 6-Day War, a few months before the Yom Kippur War, about probably within the year, which must have been a nice...
it was a year and a half before the Yom Kippur War. Right,
so it was a nice rites of passage. Welcome to Eretz Yisrael. But what was the push?
That's a different story. Okay, my wife, whom I met while I was at university, we were dating for quite a few years, and we got married a month after I graduated from Yeshiva University. We got married, and she had been in Israel right after the 1967 war. She came to learn in a place called Machon Gold, which doesn't exist anymore. It was one of these Zionist programs. Today, unfortunately, there aren't that many available today. And while she was in Israel, she got the Israel bug. And when she came back to the States, she said, I want to live in Israel. And this is before we got married, before we got engaged. We were already seeing each other, but also being away for 6 months in Israel was sort of like a testis fee if our relationship is strong. And Baruch Hashem was strong. And we made a deal with our parents that instead of a big wedding, we would have a small wedding. And the difference between the big wedding and small wedding would be a cash present a year in Israel.
A year?
A year in Israel. And we did that. The last Shever Brachas was on the plane going to Israel. And we just called people over. We asked the steward brings a bottle of wine and just like that. And we had
beautiful
had a Shever Brachas there as well.
So that year lasted 48 years so far.
No. There
in between.
In between, there were interruptions. Okay, and this was 1968.
Great year to come.
Summer of 68.
Incredible year to come, I imagine.
And what happened was I was learning in Merkaz Rav Kook, and and my wife was in the junior program in Hebrew University. And what happened was that we got some disturbing news from America that her mother was terminally ill. And we decided to cut the trip short. And we went back, Hanukkah time, we went back for a few weeks. And as far as my wife is concerned, that few weeks ended up being 3 years because we saw the situation was serious.
Right.
And then her mother passed away, which is, I have to go to that story as well. And I came back myself for 6 days just to pack up everything because we thought we're coming back.
To America.
To America. So only for the year. So I came back by myself, 6 days packed up. And those 6 days on the way to Israel changed my life completely. I told you my father had discovered a brother in 1966. He discovered a brother who survived the Holocaust. I wanted to meet my uncle. So on the way back to Israel, I took a flight, is an El Al flight, to Paris, where I could stop over for a little while and then continue on to Israel. And I visited my uncle, and I met his son and his grandkids.
What language did you converse in?
Yiddish, because that's the only language. Of course, they were French.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You didn't speak French?
I didn't speak French. I mean, I took French in school, but not enough to I know words, but to form sentences and sound intelligible was.
But Yiddish was a whole other story.
Yiddish. Yiddish is my language, is my mother tongue. I spoke Yiddish before I could speak English.
Excellent. Okay.
Anyway, the plane takes off from Charles de Gaulle Airport, going to Israel, and this is an El Al Jumbo. And any plane going to Israel is always packed with hundreds of people. There are 12 people on the plane. What's going on? All of a sudden, once we're in the air, the pilot all of a sudden announces that fasten your seatbelts, we're going to be landing. We're only in the air 20 minutes, half an hour. And all of a sudden, he says, we're going to be landing. We landed in Vienna, Austria. Why were we in Vienna? It seems that the Jewish Agency had established a transit station in Vienna for Jews from Poland who were getting out. Because in 1968, there was not enough that they were Nazis' henchmen to help kill the Jews, but there was a pogrom in Poland against the few Jews that were left there.
In 68?
68. A lot of people don't know about that.
Wow.
But there were pogroms there as well. And people...
I know it continued afterwards, but I didn't know that much.
This was 25 years after the war.
In an overt way?
23. I don't know. I don't know the details. I know that there was a massive aliyah from Poland in the late 60s.
Wow.
Because...
of this situation. Okay.
And on this plane, hundreds of people start getting on. This is the reason why this was like an unscheduled thing.
Right.
Jewish Agency probably arranged it.
Right.
And the plane filled up. And these people from Poland, they look bedraggled and forlorn. There's no hand luggage and stuff. These people just
escaping, basically.
Escaping with shirts on the backs. And I started speaking to some of them in Yiddish, because I don't know Polish.
Right.
Okay. Started speaking some in Yiddish, and some of these hair-raising stories I told them. The next 2.5, 3 hours, whatever the flight took, I was listening to these stories, amazing. Then when the captain announces fasten your seatbelts, we're about to enter Israel airspace, the people got up and they started dancing in the aisles.
Oh, my gosh.
And... somebody pulls out a bottle of vodka from somewhere. I don't know where.
The Chaim's all around.
And they start from the bottle, straight from the bottle.
I'm not surprised.
Okay, and I'm not a drinker, but I drank too.
You got stuck in, George. Good.
Okay. and it was absolutely losing. That moment, even though, let's say, I was just starting out there, I was just a student, whatever.
It clicked.
But I probably had more wealth than all these few hundred people together, because they literally just escaped with absolute nothing. It's like the Holocaust almost over again, you know.
Right.
And at that moment, I said, these people are better off than I am.
Wow.
Because they're coming to Israel to live. I'm only going there for 6 days to pack up and go back.
Got it.
And then, when we did get back, we set up an Aliyah savings plan.
Right.
Okay, all of my wife's earnings went into the savings plan. Part of mine went to, we didn't run a car. We no frills, no entertainment stuff, and we lived frugally. And
it just clicked.
Clicked.
We've got to
that moment it just clicked. My wife felt that way. It took her a few months being in Mechon Gold. With me, you know, the whole time we were in Israel, yeah, it's nice, okay, fine, you know, it's okay, it's a nice experience.
Nice experience.
But At that, also, I met the most incredible people when I came for those 6 days.
Oh yeah, what else happened?
I met the most incredible people.
Just all the pieces of the puzzle fell into place.
Okay, I met Rav Aryeh Levine.
Oh yeah.
Ish Sadiq Hayah.
Yeah, I know. In the big Sadiq of Yerushalayim.
Okay, his grandson is a classmate of mine from YU. Another grandson was the witness at our Kiddushin under our chuppah. And he was already living in Israel at the time. And I went to visit him and explained the whole story that we have to go back because, my mother-in-law is ill and everything. So he says, why don't you go to my Zaydi to get a bracha? Go get a blessing from my grandfather.
Where was he living? Harnoff? No.
Rav Aryeh Levine was living in the Shuk Machane Yehuda.
Yeah, that's right.
Shuk Machane Yehuda. The grandson was living in Pardes Chana at the time. His name was David Levine. He eventually became the mayor of Pardes Chana for a while. I don't know what he's doing now. He's retired. He's a little bit older than I am, but he's retired now. But he's also very, very unique. And all the Levines are amazing, unique people.
One of his grandsons or great-grandsons was an aide at my chuppah as well.
Was it Benji living?
No, the one that was in Harnoff, Avram? Rav Avram?
No, that must be a great-grandson, because Benji Levine also lives in Harnoff. Right. He's a grandson.
Yes, it's that family. Okay. Very special man.
Yeah, they're all very, very special people. So I went seeking for Rav Aryeh Levine. I didn't know it, but at first it took time to find. There were no streets. Today's a street called Aryeh Levine, but then there wasn't. I'm just going through the shuk and looking at all these little alleyways and stuff. And I found his house. And I asked people, and they direct me to his house. And you have to say that he's such a great man. He's living in a little hovel. When you open up the door, you hit the bedpost. You sort of squeeze yourself in. And you see this man well in his 80s, and you see the light in his face, and you see he has an aura about him, which is absolutely amazing. Again, I didn't know in Hebrew in those days. Again, I conversed with him in Yiddish. And the way he listened, what he would do is he took both his hands, put both my hands inside, clasped his hands around both my hands. So
soft, right?
Soft. And he's sitting up in his bed. He was not well already. He was aging, and he had various things wrong with him. And I'm telling the story, and I'm looking into his eyes, and I see the great empathy in his eyes.
Right.
And after... Natural, all very natural. And my wife, in the meantime, conceived our oldest daughter while we were in Israel, and there were various complications as well. We were concerned about how the baby would be as well. So he just said as follows: you're going to have a strong and healthy baby, and your mother-in-law will have the nachas of seeing the baby. That's what I said. Both things came true.
Right.
We had our oldest daughter was born. Her name is Racheli. Today she's a grandmother of 3, Baruch Hashem. And my mother-in-law had a rally point at one point where she lived, and she passed away when Racheli was 10 months old.
Right, so she saw. She
not only saw, but we
experienced.
We lived just a few blocks away from them. So
she got to experience that.
Because every day she was with her grandchild. This was her first grandchild. She was with this grandchild all the time, and
you can't put into words when you meet these. They are sages. You're in the presence of something unbelievable, and if a Jew has not been fortunate to be in the locale of one of these, what we call tzaddikim, in your lifetime, you've got to try, no matter what your level of observance is, wherever you're from, just take it from me and George. We have very, very special people, and you know it when you're in their presence. It's beyond words. You sink into their aura. I don't even know any other way to put it. And it's not psychological. You feel it, I
agree. By the way, you don't have to be religious to have that aura.
Definitely not.
I have met people who are totally non-observant, and they still have that aura. There's one man who, Holocaust survivor. If you remember, there's a film that came out about 25 years ago called Europa.
No, I don't know that film.
Okay, it was in German. It was a German film, and it's about this man's life story.
Wow.
Of how he was attached as a they didn't know he was Jewish, and he was attached as a mascot or helper to a Nazi platoon.
Wow.
They didn't know he was Jewish. It's a true story. It's a true story.
That's insane.
True story. I forgot the fellow's name, but when he's telling his story, and then they showed clips of the film, which I had also seen earlier.
But he knew. He knew about himself.
He knew himself. Yeah, he knew he was Jewish.
So he just went along with it. I'm going to survive.
That's the way he survived.
Right. Wow.
This is the way he survived. But the man is non-observant. But it's amazing. You know that when you're sitting and hearing that I'm in the aura of greatness.
Right.
And I felt this several times. Several people I met this way. Rav's uncle, who Baruch Hashem is a very absorbing guy.
Who's Rav Kanai?
Rav Kanai's uncle.
That's our Rav in our Beit Knesset.
Okay,
yeah.
yes. So Rav Kanai's uncle is Professor Naiman.
That's right.
Who won the Nobel Prize for economics.
That's right. Very, very smart man.
Very smart. He's a very special man.
Very special man.
I was once went to a weekend. They had the YU reunion weekend, and he was the guest speaker at the weekend. And I was very privileged to be sat at his table next to him.
You converse with him.
And I conversed with him.
Special man.
Unbelievably special. He's
Yeah.
He's so modest too. It's just amazing. Just one story after the other.
I think a lot of it, going back to our original start of the conversation, this idea of Musa, character correction, and being a mensch, it's not about the text that we're not a people of just we're called the people of the book. We didn't call ourselves that, by the way, did we? It was I think it was the Muslim world that called us the people of the book or whatever. But it's not about the book for us. It's what the book does to us. It's what the experience of being around incredible Jews, the influence, how they are mashpia on us, how they influence us to be bigger. Most of your stories involve being influenced. Your dad's story of relativity, being influenced. I'm influenced by the stories of the Klausenberger Rebbe. And this is the ultimate influence is Hashem. And that's why who's Hashem? Who's Hashem? Like the terrible thing of thinking that of God. I say it so often. It's such a separated definition of what this the universe creator is. It's so limiting.
My thoughts, I agree with you. My thought of what Hashem is all about is very, very finite. I mean, it's very, very limited. And I don't like to philosophize about it because, as I said, everybody finds Hashem in his or her own way.
Right.
And it means something different. I described everything that I feel in one word, thanks, which I mentioned earlier. But that's it. It all depends where you're going. And where you're at and where you're coming from.
I think what gets me is when people ascribe a negativity to the word God and what God represents, and then they think about all these very limiting definitions of what God is, based on ignorance, misinformation. Usually terrible experiences at some point in their life with some aspect of either the Jewish religion, another religion, and then all religions get put under the R category, which you can't do with Yiddishkeit. You can't do that because we're not a religion. We're not a religion. We do things religiously. It's true. That's how we've survived the last 2,000 years. It was turned into this, but historically we're not a religion. We are very high level. I'm a musician, so I'm going to use some musical term. We're big time groovers with Hashem, right? We are spiritual groovers. We feel vibes of the deepest aspects of human existence, and when you start getting too technical with this stuff, when you start wanting to really put stuff into boxes, you lose it. We have the boxes to keep our discipline in terms of our religious practice. Religious practice is really good. We turn up for shul. We daven. Okay, it can sometimes become a bit laborious. I'm not going to say it's exciting every time, but the essence of it is it keeps us together. It's called a Beit Knesset because Hashem likes people gathering. We get into shmoozes. One shmooze leads to two people end up into a podcast studio. We're crying together. We're laughing together. This is great. This is happiness. This is simcha, right? That's why we're the richest people in the world. What do we need anyone's money for, right?
Okay.
And I think that going back to this idea of like character correction, which is a quite technical way of describing Musa, but developing yourself into a affable person, a nice person, a person that's interested in the other, sensitive. We talk about Rav Aryeh Levine, a person that looked into your eyes, and I've also experienced that. They're just looking deep into you. The Lubavitcher Rebbe, millions of people passed through his front door and he's giving out the dollars. He looked into every single person, Jew, non-Jew, and in the craziness of our world now, where, we haven't even spoken about the Corona thing, but my main simple interpretation of the Corona thing is, Hashem wants to separate us so we get close. We need this time to separate, to know that really what life is all about is closeness. And I was even thinking about, I know we were talking in the car on the way here, which if not, we'll have time, we'll talk about it another time. I'm into football, right? And I support Tottenham for all my sins, obviously. But like I was thinking yesterday, because no one's allowed in the stadiums at the moment. So all the players and all the teams are playing in empty stadiums. So it's almost like playing in a graveyard. They're still playing. Thank God they're still playing, and it's entertaining. But I was thinking about all those people when they suddenly are allowed back in. That euphoric moment of being together with your fellow supporters, and then the players who haven't managed to celebrate a goal yet, where they run into the crowd. That moment of connection, you could look at it as, it's just football, but it's not. It's the deepest thing of people connecting around something. And that, I believe, is what life is all about. And then you've got the people that come along that want to trash it and ruin it, like the Nazis, like the haters in the world, that basically cause all the problems, let's be honest. But that's what it's all about, connection and relationships with our fellow Jew and our fellow man.
Well, first of all, I admire you, because just going through the process that you've gone through and becoming observant at age 25.
25, yeah.
And not just becoming observant, not just doing the rote ritual, but having this connection with Hashem is very, very admirable. Okay.
And not losing myself in it.
Because unfortunately, I know of many, many Jews who will not miss davening with a minyan ever, but they're just going through the motions. They're doing it's rote, and it's doing it only because this is what they've been doing all their lives,
right?
And not necessarily because they have the feeling. In fact, while you were talking, it reminded me. There is a tractate of the Talmud called Moed Katan, which deals with the laws of Chol HaMoed, the intermediate days.
In the festivals, the days in Sukkot and Pesach.
Yes, right. So in Moed Katan, there is a story of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, who is one of the greatest as well. In fact, hundreds of thousands of people come to his grave all the time to ask that he should pray in their behalf to Hashem, and for multitude of reasons. It could be health, it could be finding the right partner in life, it could be parnasa or whatever. And there's a very, very strange Agadah. Agadah is like a Torah parable that is mentioned there. That Reb Shimon Bar Yochai comes to his son. And he says, I want you to go to see these two people and get a bracha from him. One's name was Rabbi Yehuda ben Gerim. Gerim means that he's obviously convert. And the other was named Rabbi, I think it was Amisai, which is not a Jewish name either. Okay? It may
Greek name?
Greek, it might be Roman.
Yeah.
It's different things. So why did Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai ask his son to go get a blessing from these two people?
Mm-hmm.
And I came up with my own. So they just tell the story, but they don't say why this happened. The story is longer. I won't go into it right now.
Right.
But I found an answer. The answer is this: Reb Shimon Bar Yochai was always from. Okay, his father was from, his grandfather was. Everybody was observant. Okay, he never had the experience of going through a change of becoming.
Going from one world to
another world, okay? These two people that made the massive change.
Oh, I see.
They made the massive change. They were at a place that Reb Shimon Bar Yochai could never reach.
Right, understand.
Because he came from it. You know, he grew up in an observant background, environment, so he didn't feel it.
Right.
But this is the reason why he said, these people are really holy. You have to get a blessing from these people because their blessing counts because they are closer to Hashem.
Wow.
And I think this is the message. Now, what's even more interesting is that I once heard a talk by Rabbi Bero Wein, who is an amazing historian.
Amazing
historian. And he said that right after the destruction of the Second Temple, many Roman soldiers converted to Judaism.
I heard that as well.
Okay, I once saw Rabbi Wein on another occasion. I asked him, "Where's the source for this?" He didn't remember where the source was, but he says that if you want to repeat what I said, you have to do it with a grain of salt, because this was also the time at the beginning of true Christianity,
right?
And many of the Roman converts became Christians.
Oh, I see.
Because, as I said, the Christianity said we're the new Judaism.
Right. So it was more, in those days, it was much more towards paganism, Christianity.
Exactly.
So it was an easy...
Exactly. So it's very, very possible that the parents or grandparents of these two Gerim, these two converts, may have been Roman soldiers who had few generations had murdered Jews.
Wow.
And I can't help, again, tying this together with the Holocaust. You have German people coming here, grandchildren of Nazis, coming to Israel, converting.
Yeah, that's right.
And I see history repeating itself. This story happened 1,800 years ago, and you see it happening now in our time. The grandchildren of Nazis coming back and becoming very, very observant Jews many times.
It's crazy, right? We don't know what's going on. That's the thing. We don't know what's going on. And that makes life even more exciting. Life is very exciting.
Especially in Israel, you're never bored.
Never a dull day in Israel. Do you think, George, it's easy for us to say because we're here and we obviously had our experiences to draw us to make Aliyah. I feel for people that don't have that tug, that pull. I know people, as you do as well, they are not leaving England, they're not leaving America anytime soon.
Many of them are observant too.
Many are observant. I maintain it must be that majority of people that have made Aliyah have not been observant. I could be wrong about that, but I don't know why I feel like I think that more, well, because of the pure numbers that are here now. I mean, I know there've been a lot of births and stuff in the last 70 odd years, but I think more people have moved here who are not observant.
You're right. In fact, I'm a little bit close to these statistics because I used to work for the Jewish Agency many years ago.
Right.
And when I was there during the mid-'70s to early '80s, the overwhelming majority of the Jews that came were non-observant. I'd say it was probably 80-20.
Wow.
Was the thing. I think probably now, we're talking about 35 years later.
Swinging the other way.
It's swinging the other way simply because many Jews have intermarried or they've gone away from, or they've become assimilated. And there's less of a pull to Israel because they don't have the same Jewish connection. So therefore, I think that the people who are coming to Israel today, you find that the percentage is of observant Jews coming is probably greater. I can't give you numbers because I've been out of the scene for many years, many decades even. But I could probably say that the numbers have switched in the last 35 years.
It's hard to say to someone, you should come. I think it's very dangerous to say to anyone in life, you should do this or you should do that. I think it's not for really anyone to say to anyone else, this is what you should be. But when it comes to Israel, especially in these times of coronavirus and everything, and just the way the world's going, and anti-Semitism has not gone away, it's gone the other way. As Rabbi Sachs said, he didn't think in his lifetime that he'd see this, but feared that it could happen, and it's definitely happening. You know, and the way that the world is so far in terms of liberal thinking, but the Jews are not included in that, it would appear. You know, Jewish lives matter less, it would appear, in terms of slogans and stuff, which is okay, by the way, because we're Jews and we know that. We know who we are. But Israel, Aliyah, I promote Aliyah, I promote people to come, but not in a forceful way. But George, our life here is challenging because it's challenging by nature. But wow, right?
Unbelievable place.
Wow.
Well, Israel is first of all, I just want to say that Aliyah is not for everybody. Not for everybody. And we have a lot of people very, very close to us, relatives, close friends, and they're not coming. They're very happy where they are, and you can't force that emotion on someone. You can't do it. They've been to Israel many times, and it's just not there. And you have to have the heart for it. I'm not saying the mind. You have to have the heart for it. And if your heart is not in it, it's not going to work. And that's all there is to it.
I think Rav Yaakov Hillel is you know Rav Yaakov Hillel?
No.
Okay, so he's a big Rav from the Bombay community. From my mother-in-law's from that community, and he was Masada Kedushin. So he said some interesting take on something when the Jews left Egypt. I'm just paraphrasing. You know, we left with wagons of gold, and it says in the Hebrew, it says we emptied Mitzrayim, we emptied Egypt. Yeah. So the classic understanding is we emptied Egypt of its wealth because we were owed all that money for the 200
reparations.
Yeah, reparations, exactly. But Rav Hillel, quoting someone else who I've forgotten, but he said, no, there's another understanding of this. We emptied Mitzrayim of the Kedusha, of the holiness of the place, because we were done with Mitzrayim. And fast forward to the Shulchan Aruch, the code of Jewish law, from my understanding, it says of all the places that a Jewish person can go, Egypt is not a place that we are not allowed to settle in, even though we did in Alexandria. But specifically, Egypt is a place that Jews are not supposed to settle in. And I think what he did is he combined it all together to say, job done in Egypt spiritually, meaning whatever needed to be taken out was taken out, and then that's why it says in the parsha, the Bnei Yisrael, they emptied Mitzrayim of what needs to be. So he said regarding Aliyah, when a Jewish person's job is done in Chutz La'aretz, in the diaspora, then he'll come. Because every neshama, every soul, has work to do on a very deep level in the places around the world. Like Oliver Cromwell said, it came to his head. I know he was a religious man. Oh, we don't have Jews in England when he took over from the crown, right? After the Civil War,
the Protestant Revolution,
right? And it says for the Messiah to come, the Jews have to be in the four corners of the world. So let's let the Jews back in. So in come the Jews. All the Sephardim came back into England, which people don't realise. A lot of Sephardim and then everyone else came, right? I think we have to be careful. Even though I encourage Aliyah, we also have to be careful that some Jews don't have that feeling yet because maybe the job is not done. I knew my job was done because I had such a strong feeling. I'm like, I can't be here anymore. And I'm quite a fan of England. You know, not a massive fan, but there's certain aspects of it. But this experience is so alive being in Israel and so worth it. Every day feels like the first day. Do you still feel that after all those years?
I can't imagine living anywhere else. I remember, first of all, whenever we take a trip, we only go away for a couple of weeks maximum, because after about 5-10 days.
Yeah, I know.
I really want to get back.
Get itchy feet.
My wife and I were on sabbatical in 2003. We came to the States on sabbatical, and we were there for 3 months. And after the second week,
it's hellish.
When are we going back?
Yeah, I know. You miss it. You miss, and you can't really put it into words. You miss it.
It's not home. It's not home. It's even though I appreciate America, I owe a lot of thanks to America for taking in my family. I was educated in America. I was trained in America, and I still vote in American elections. But Israel's my home. Mm-hmm. This is my home. I always felt different when I was in America.
Yeah,
the only time I started feeling that I was really home was here.
Right.
And that's all there is to it.
And all from that plane, not all from that plane, but that plane journey. That's an amazing story. That you just saw them, and you happened to be one of the minority on the plane. Only El Al could do an unscheduled stop.
It was Jewish agency.
It was the Jewish agency. They commandeered the plane, basically.
They had made an arrangement. It was planned. I didn't know about it.
Did anyone else know about it?
There were only 12 people on the plane. I don't know. I didn't speak to anybody. You go on a plane. The first thing you do when you go on a plane at night, okay, and if you see you've got 3 empty seats, you take them. You spread out.
Well, you had the whole plane.
Almost, yeah.
Which was shocking. You'd be like, oh, hang on a minute.
I said, what? No, look, I thought it's strange. Okay, fine. What happened?
Right.
But
not that. You didn't expect that.
Half hour later, the landing. It's amazing.
The Jewish flights are the best flights in the world. I think no, everyone. It's like one big shul.
It's Hamish. It's Hamish. Yeah.
It's great.
Unfortunately, sometimes it gets out of hand.
Right.
I have to admit it, and sometimes it's embarrassing.
Okay.
And
but we're family. What can we do?
We're family, but sometimes when you have, let's say, a non-Jewish crew, and they don't know what's going on,
right.
and when everybody gets up at the same time and they want to serve their meals or they want to do this stuff like that.
Are you talking about on non-El Al flights?
Non-El Al flights. Usually not,
they don't know what to make of it.
They don't know. Right. If you have a flight to or from Israel, let's say on another airline.
Right, I understand.
Okay,
it's challenging for the flight crew.
It's very, very challenging.
That again ties back into my idea of this Menschkeit. Is that Jewish people have always got. They should have a higher standard, because what needs to happen, I would say, in a situation like that is we've always got to be looking for the Kiddush Hashem. How do we glorify Hashem's name by acting properly?
Exactly, being a mensch.
Exactly.
And that ties me back to what my father said. Kodem kol zaya mensch. But first, it would be a mensch.
Yeah.
And that's what, then everything else falls into place.
I think if it's a bold statement, I think that is where ultimately the Jewish people are going most wrong. It's I never like to criticize Am Yisrael, because we're special people, but sometimes constructive criticism is needed. When we riot and we cause a scene, this is not the Jewish way. And I know you might say, well, sometimes we've got to speak up. We do have to speak up. I look at someone like Rabbi Sachs. Okay, I'm going to be biased. May he be well soon. May he be very,
Amen.
very well.
Amen.
But, Rabbi Sachs is such an example of how to project a proper Jewish person in the greater world. He protests. He uses the word protest a lot. He said the Jewish people are the protest against the world. But he doesn't do it in a way that's angry. He doesn't do it he does it with dignity, with malchut, with sort of kingship, with like royalty. And when we do it the other way, it just doesn't work for us. It works against us.
I agree. I'm a very big believer in live and let live. But sometimes when I see things and I feel that I have to say what these people are doing is wrong. You see this now with this COVID business.
Right.
When we're supposed to stay separate, we're not supposed to congregate.
No.
And then when people start to riot in the streets to protect their rights of whatever, I'm very sorry.
Embarrassing.
It's very, very embarrassing. And not only that, but they're also endangering us.
Yeah, by definition, by the
exactly.
Yeah, exactly. And I wonder, because everything comes down to psychology in the end. Not everything, but there's a lot that comes into play, and with that, it's where are people with their relationship with Hashem? Because if you're really close to the ultimate good, and when you understand that Hashem's whole modus operandi is, listen, this world is a good world. It's good. I'm good. It's good. You're good. Everything's good about it. But when people are not tapped into that, then they can only be tapped into something else, and that's themselves. Then they can do anything. Riot, congregate, speak too loud, flash all their money everywhere. Hey, look at us, the rich Jews. But it never, ever helps the Jewish people, ever. Not. And that is where you talk about thanks. I think thanks and gratitude is a cornerstone of being a Jew and a human being, 100%. But also the humility behind the thanks. Look at our great leader, Moses. He was the most humble of all men. I think humility is the key trait to a Jew, which then is the precursor to everything else. And then you won't act like an animal. You'll just be a good representation of what we're representing all along, which is Hashem. And then I think the world, I think a lot is on our shoulders still. Meaning the world have a very habitual kind of characteristic. They're always looking at the Jews, and they're always, by definition, looking at Israel. We must be significant when you can't even see us on a map. Literally.
Sure.
My son said to me, my son is born and raised here, he's a Sabra completely. And he's like, Abba, where are we? I can't see Israel. But yet, they obsess about us, which I think is a message to say, listen, we're being looked at all the time. So you've got to give a good example of yourself wherever you are, business, in family situations, on a national scale, in all walks of life. You've got to understand that the non-Jews are looking at us because they want inspiration. I was once given one of my rabbonim in London. I was once given it. He never drove, so it was raining, as is the way in London.
Only twice a week, once for 3 days and once for 4 days.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So I gave him a lift home, and I said to him, Rav, why? This was years ago. I said, why are the non-Jews so often? Why are they so angry at us? And he said because they're not happy with us. He said because we're not allowing them to be them. I said, what do you mean by that? He said, if we are just behaving as we should behave, and just all of us collectively would give a good name, good impression of ourselves, he said they'll calm. He said they'll calm down. He said, but when you give them reasons to hate us, they're going to go for it because they're programmed that way. Hashem said it in the Torah. We have to be very careful. Like the world is a stick. Hashem uses them to whip us into shape. And I personally don't think the COVID situation is any different. It's just channeling. And if we react to it with riots and noise and all that, no, we have to react to it, I think, with humility, with discipline, with, our shul has been amazing. Rav Kanai, talking about Rav Kanai, who please God is going to come in and do a podcast. We're disciplined in the shul.
True. It's true. He's amazing. A lot of people who belong to other places come to us during the middle of the week because it seems it's the safest place to daven because they feel that we keep the space, we keep all the rules, everybody wears a mask, and we wipe down the chairs afterwards, and we wear gloves, and so it's amazing. He has done that.
Yeah, he's done that. He's led from the front. Fantastic.
He's amazing.
George, what are you going to do? Should we finish here? I know there's more to talk about, but we've done an hour and 40 minutes. I don't know if I'm going to put it out as one. Maybe I will. We'll see. It's hard for people to get through an hour and 40, but I don't know. Maybe they will.
That's up to you. I have stories that I think I should mention.
Yeah, go on.
Okay, and these are the stories because I was telling you about the messages from the past.
Oh yeah, back to that. Yeah, no problem.
And there are a few more messages. In other words, I expelled it. These are the experiences I'm feeling. I mentioned by 1995. Mentioned 2003. Another thing happened in 2017.
Oh, recently.
Okay, 2017. There are others in between, but I'm just getting to the major things right now. There was a exhibit. I saw a notice about an exhibit of photographs of a photographer by the name of Heinrich Ross.
Mm-hmm.
A Jewish photographer who was hired by the Nazis to do publicity photographs to show that the Jews are being well treated in the Lodz ghetto.
Oh, as propaganda.
As propaganda. So it's very similar to what they did in Theresienstadt. And he took these things. Now, when the Nazis were not looking, he also took pictures of the hunger and disease and what else.
Of the reality.
Okay. What happened was that
What was his name?
Heinrich Ross. He buried the film in some basement or something in glass jars or canisters or whatever as well. And they were just unearthed a few years ago, and some of the film had been destroyed or damaged because of the wetness that gotten in. Also, many years, many decades, it was that way. But he managed to save about I think it was 1,000, 1,200 photographs.
Wow.
Of what was going on. And I see about this exhibit, and what I did was I click on the website of the Boston Museum where this is being held. The poster picture advertising is a picture of Heinrich Ross taking a photograph of a work detail with some sort of, he wasn't the Nazi, he was probably like some capo or something, standing off the side making sure that everybody's smiling. And in that photograph, I see a picture of my father.
Wow. Again.
On the poster, I'm telling you, these messages keep coming back over and over and over again. Always, as I told you about these as well. And I have a picture of that poster there. And I think it's called something on Earth, Memories on Earth, or something like that.
Right.
It's
Right.
So I have that.
Okay.
And another story happened in 2018 in Paris, France. My wife had gone there. My wife was her choir that she conducts with was giving a series of concerts in Paris.
Mm-hmm.
And I came along as well. And we were only there for a few days. It's a Saturday night, Motzei Shabbat, Saturday night. And we're hungry. And so we went down to the Jewish area to find a place to eat. Everything's closed. The bars are open, discotheques are open, but all the Jewish places were closed. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, we stopped this Chabad fellow, older gentleman, Chabad Chassid, and he says... we ask him, where's the place? He says, follow me. So we start following him. And for an older gentleman, he was keeping up a very, very quick paces with a little girl. And we're walking. And I kept saying, why are we following this guy? He's leading us the opposite direction of where we have to go to the metro to get on. So my wife is saying, no, let it go.
George, go with it.
Okay, go, let it go. Okay, we'll grab a sandwich in the hotel, whatever. So we go with it. All of a sudden, he stops in front of a dark building, and he says, "This is the Holocaust Memorial that we have here in Paris. You must go here."
This is at night.
This is at night, Saturday night.
The
building's dark. It's closed. It's dark. He just pointed the thing, says, "This, you must go here."
Right.
And all of a sudden, he disappears. He and the little boy disappear. Now I say, look, we follow this guy for 10 minutes out of our way. We can walk back. She says, don't worry about it. We get back to the hotel, and this thing was that you must go here, you must go here, you must go here. Starting Sunday, the next day, I said, you know what, let's go to this Holocaust Museum. And we go to the Holocaust Museum. Now, just a little bit of background is that my grandfather passed away in the early 1920s. When my father was a little boy. Mm-hmm. And I had to go out to work. Now, my grandmother was left with 8 orphans, and the best way to start feeding them is sending them out of the house. So the oldest daughter got married to a man by the name of Yitzhak Kornblum from Poland, and he decided in 1925, he decided to go to Paris to seek his fortune. And he took my uncle, Ben Sion, it was my father's older brother, with him to learn a trade. Ben Zion was his. Now Kornblum was married, and he came there. Now my father found this brother 41 years later. This Ben Zion 41 years later. Also, I won't go into the details, but we asked Kornblum, who also survived the war, what happened to my father's sister. Father always wanted to know, and he said that she perished in the war, but we didn't know when, what. So we come to this Holocaust Museum. This is February 2018. You come through the place where they have they check the security check, and they have these huge columns about 5-6 meters up in the air with names. One of the names on there was Gittel Kornblum, who was my father's sister. These were the names of people who were deported from France, French citizens.
Oh, from the Vichy government.
They have been deported. Okay, they've been, and I see her name, and I go to the curator of the museum, saying, "This Gittel Kornblum, I want to find out if it's the same Gittel Kornblum I know." So they had records because the Nazis kept records. The names were just on the columns, but they had. If you remember, the Nazi hunters beat in Klarsfeld.
Yeah.
They used to find ex-Nazis. They found Klaus Barbie and a few others.
They found all of them.
Yeah.
Amnon Gertz.
Yeah. No, Gertz was long gone already by then. He was
right.
He was captured.
Oh, after.
Yeah. And so he established he computerized everything. He computerized everything in there, and they had records. And I saw that this Gittel Kornblum, maiden name Stanislawski.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. They had records. They had a copy of a receipt that they gave her. In other words, before she got on the train, she had to turn over all her money, saying that it's for safekeeping, and they can get the money back on the other end. And there's a copy of a receipt. She gave them 1,488 French francs.
They even kept the copy of the receipt.
They kept the receipt, the copy of the receipt that they gave. This was the French probably did this. Okay. They even have a thing, where'd she go?
Yeah.
She went to Drancy. Drancy was a French concentration camp in southern France that was totally under control. There wasn't a single Nazi there. It was all under the Vichy government.
Right.
Okay? The records then showed, because this is all there, the records showed she was in Drancy for 5 days, and then she was deported to Auschwitz. This was like May 25th, she arrived in Drancy. May 30th, 1944, she went to Auschwitz. And D-Day was 6 days later. She missed D-Day by 6 days.
Wow.
And as soon as she got to Auschwitz, that was it.
That was it.
They weren't
There's
labor.
no more working, no labor.
They were just
killing.
Now, I never knew this. I never knew about this. Again, another message from the past.
Wow.
Another message from the past. Then I said, they had the address.
That's your father's
sister. Then they had the address of where she lived. So I showed them the address. I said, where's it? She said, it's 2 blocks away from the museum.
Oh, my gosh.
So I went to the thing. I found the address.
Is that the photograph you sent me?
That's the photograph.
Above was it a restaurant or something?
No, I think it's some sort of shop there.
Yeah.
Today there's a shop down there.
Yeah, I see.
But she lived in one of these flats above that shop. Obviously, it was probably another shop then. But again, message in 1995, 2003, 2015, 2017, 2018.
Tying your family together.
I'm always getting bits and pieces of information. It's messages from the past. It's my father's neshama talking to me.
Ultimately, what do you feel like these messages are giving you? It's obviously connecting all the dots.
It's learning about myself, learning about my past, because I never had any family photos of what happened before. And all of a sudden, I'm discovering things. And when I grew up in Atlanta, I always felt different because all my friends had grandparents to go to. They had uncles, they had aunts.
Oh, you felt an emptiness, a lacking?
I felt something lacking.
A void.
I felt a certain void. I had my immediate family. I had me and my parents.
Right.
But
this thing, this void.
It was different. It was different. And
so it's all matana, all gifts from Hashem.
1981, they had in Binyanei Omah, which is the convention center here in Jerusalem, they had a conference of Holocaust survivors and second generation. At the second generation, they took us, we had a workshop where maybe 100, 150 people showed up at this workshop, how to get our parents to talk about their experiences and tried to record it all. My father wouldn't talk. Unfortunately, passed away, and I never managed.
This was before the Spielberg Shoah Foundation.
Yes,
way
before.
before.
This is 1981. All right. So at this conference, there are a few people sitting there, a few hundred people sitting there. This guy gets up from California, 6'4", tanned, long blonde hair. Earring in his ear. The earrings weren't popular then, but earring in his ear. I mean, when I first come in, I said, what's this guy doing here, B'chlam?
Yeah.
And he gets up and he starts to talk. He says, all my life, I felt alone. I felt different. I had friends in California, but I always felt alone. I never fit in because all my friends had grandparents, had cousins, had this. I always felt different. While he's talking, I start to cry. Then I see the people around me. Everybody's crying. There wasn't a dry eye in the place.
Right.
And all of a sudden, when he finished talking, everybody turned around and they start hugging each other. Because all of a sudden, he said that for the first time in my life, I'm in a room with strangers, but I feel closer to you than my best friends in California.
Because you all got something in common.
That's right.
Wow. Powerful stuff, man. Powerful, powerful stuff.
So I think this is a good place to end.
George, it's been a treat. We'll do this or in some form or another again. There's more to talk about. You enjoyed it?
It's my pleasure. My pleasure. First of all, I'm honored that you consider me an important enough topic to do.
There's no such thing as an ordinary Jew. No such thing as a simple Jew. We've all got stories. Some have got more stories maybe that are more apparent. And also, it's good to talk about these things. It's inspiring. And look, it's all come good in the end.
Baruch Hashem.
That's the amazing
Baruch
thing.
Hashem.
That's what Israel is. It's come good.
Israel's good. And also, we talked about thanks before.
Yeah.
I told you I grew up without grandparents, without uncles and aunts. And yesterday, I had the privilege of holding my great-grandson. My parents saw grandchildren, but they never saw great-grandchildren. They never see married grandchildren. I had the privilege of seeing married great-grandchildren, and I've seen the fourth generation.
In Israel.
In Israel. We're all in Israel.
Baruch Hashem.
So, who can ask for anything more?
Apart from saying thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks to you. Thanks to me. And of course, thanks to Hashem. George, thanks very much. All the best.
Okay, thank
Lots
you.
of love.
Thank you very much.
Bye.